Thank you for being here for the Work Orders 101 webinar. My name is Dino. I'll be your host for this one. Before we continue, just want to remind you for those who've never attended our our webinars, you can ask questions in the section that is called Q&A at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Any questions that you would like to ask, you can ask that is related to the subject matter. So it'll be about Work Orders 101. If you have any other questions related to the software, then I urge you to reach out to our support team or just call or chat with the chat function with our support team, and they will be able to help you. All right. Without further ado, I will present to you your trainer for today, Susan Fowler. Susan is our senior trainer at Maintenance Care, and she will guide you through the Work Order 101 webinar. Take it over, Susan.
Thanks, Dino. Hi, everybody. Okay, so we're going to basically talk about managing work orders, the best workflow protocol, right? We're going to give you options to that. We're going to talk a little bit about also too, which is really important for work order management, is to make sure that your primary screen when you log into maintenance care is set up the way that's going to be helpful to you and it's not overwhelming and it's easy to navigate. As you are probably already aware, over to the left of your screen is all of the different navigation points that are available in maintenance care. Now, your access is dependent on whoever your master user is, and your master user can change your access. But there's 5 navigation points within maintenance care. Our focus today is going to be on the status task list, which we're looking at right now. I also want to point out too, just below your navigation, we've got the support icon. So as Dino mentioned, maintenance care has a phone number, a online chat, and an email. So if you need help, that's your resource to go to. There's also a really fantastic online wiki guide. It looks like a little life preserver just over to the right of the customer support icon. There's keyword search, there's navigation search, there's videos. There's also links within there that will take you to step-by-step instructions. There's also a link to our YouTube channel, which has all sorts of really fantastic resources. And if you subscribe, you can get some of the newest webinars, or you can see some of the older webinars are there. So I do encourage you to do that. All right, so what do we see on our screen? Basically, you see your tasks. And remember, there are 2 types of tasks that can come into the maintenance care system. We have demand style work orders, right? Demand style work orders is something is broken, it needs to be fixed. It can come in via the request page, which everybody should be and have knowledge of, right? And that's where anybody that has access to the request page can submit a work order. Now, a request page can be on a desktop, it can be on an intranet, it can be a QR code that can be scanned with a phone. Basically, it can be just about any way that it comes in. And then we have the other types of work orders that are what we call our system generated. And system generated is your preventative maintenance. And as you know, preventative maintenance can fall into like 3 different categories, right? Preventative maintenance can be equipment based, it can be compliance and regulatory, and it can be anything that you've set up on a schedule. So both of those come into the task list. And as you see here, we have a column called submitted by. You can see anything that says system is your preventative maintenance. So it comes from the scheduler, and anything that has a name associated with it normally comes in via the request page. Now, work orders can also be added directly here in the main system. There's the add button. And also too, if anybody's using the mobile app, which I really do highly recommend, it's a really great tool. It's a tool that works together with the main system and they sort of complement each other. You can come in and sit down during the day, first thing in the morning, check out what you need to do, and then you can take the mobile app with you and it gives you mobile functionality, basically to do the paperwork side of yourself. But the recommendation always is if you are sitting at your desk first thing in the morning, you're logging into maintenance care, you want to navigate the system in a really simple and easy way. So the visual part that we're going to be talking a lot about today, along with the work order management, is extremely important. Okay, so there's a couple of things that I'm going to walk you through that will help you navigate the system and stay on top of work orders. And then we'll get into the nitty gritty of actually managing tasks and what the recommendations are. So the first thing that we're going to do is in your upper right corner of your screen, you will see 2 icons that we're going to go to, right? We're going to go to the first icon. It's a little circle with a person inside it. You're going to pop on that and it's going to bring open a window. Now, this is the proper way to log out of maintenance care. Most of us like to get rid of our browsers, but logging out actually closes you out of the software, and that's important to remember. We're going to go into settings. So again, we're going to point our eyes to more settings. And specifically, we're going to go into display setting. Mobile app settings is for turning on notifications for your app, but we're going to go into display settings. Right? Now, when any new user is created in the system, there are some defaults that are automatic when you log in that you want to change. Now, these are just optional changes. These are recommendation changes, again, to keep that view as best suited for you to be able to manage your work orders. So we're going to just sort of walk through it, and then I'll explain the changes that we made. So grid page size. Grid page size is how many work orders you can see at one time based on your date range. The number of days is your date range in your filter, and I'll show you where that looks like. You'll see a lot of these little menus in maintenance care, and everything usually defaults to the top of the menu. Okay, so for example, for a new user, grid page would be 15 and recommendation is between 25 and 50. You can play with this a little bit. Manually, you can change it to 200, but these are the two. I call it like the sweet spot, right? Either one of those. Okay, so again, recommendation to change your grid page size. Number of days. So default date range is 7 days. Recommendation, especially if you're going to be using the mobile app, is 30. The reason that we recommend that with the app is because that's how you're going to set your primary filter. It's the best filter in mobile app to stay on top of things. Okay. We've got some little boxes here, and I've got one checked off. That's highlight priority. So visually, what you can do in a task is you can highlight it. You can set it to a yes or no priority. Yes will highlight it across your screen. And that just visually takes you there to highlight that this is important in this list of things that I have to get done. For the people that have been using the system for a while, not any new users, recommendation would be active only. Okay, which means every time you log in, you will see open work orders. Now you can change that filter at any time. Again, we're making suggestions to help you navigate and make it easier for you to manage work orders. So again, for people that have a system that they've been using for a while and the number of work orders that are coming in, that's a recommendation. You can play with some of these alls. You can sort your priority. The little message here box is a little message that will pop up and it'll let you know any new features. So again, if you like that pop-up, you can have it. It's up to you. This is probably one of the most important ones too, is your date format. So again, we've got that menu, right? And we've got the menu defaulting to the very top. So again, depending on where you are, you might like day, month, year, you might like month, day, year, but look at all the different variables that you have for date format. So you can choose it. It's really up to you. This is more customizing your screen for what you want to see. So recommendations, again, grid page, number of days, 30, highlight priority, and then again, your date format, and you save, okay? So again, that icon is up here in the upper right corner of your screen, right? Okay, and that's where you log out of maintenance care and you'll go into settings, you'll go into more settings, display settings, okay? We're gonna come to this icon in a second, so keep that in your mind because we will be talking about it, but let's go back to our task list. Okay, so let's talk about what we changed. We changed our date format here, right? So again, remember I can change it to whatever I want it to be. Mine is set up for the default, which is day, month, year. There is my 30 days, okay? In my filter, I have 3 lines of filters here. Down below, there is my grid page, okay? So again, I can manually change it. It's going to tell me how many work orders I see over here based on my date range and based on my status. If I have to page over, as an example, if I'm over 50, I can manually change this, okay? So again, if I had set that default to active, it would have all of my open work orders. And within maintenance care, open work orders are new, pending, reopened, and delayed, okay? So if I go in and change my status here manually, not as a default, it will take me to a much more manageable list. And that's why the recommendation is to filter that way. If you wanted to look at closed work orders, you could just go in and filter by closed, right? If you wanted to look at pending, you can just look at pending. So that's the recommendation, is to set that as a default. It helps. And again, remember that mirrors the mobile app. Okay. Now, one thing to note in any filter change that you make here, one being the primary here, or if you are searching for anything, you will note over here just beside the add button is a filter, and you'll see a 1 in it. This is called a sticky filter within our system, and it basically does that. It sticks, which means if I refresh my browser or if I log out of maintenance care, it will keep this filter. So you have to be aware of that, that if you start setting other filters, it's going to start plopping numbers in there. And that means that you probably don't see what you want to see. So if you hit reset, it takes you back to your original filter. Okay, which means you're back to all work orders for the last 30 days, seeing up to 50 at a time. And I can scroll up and down. I don't have to page over. Okay, so keep that in mind. The filter and any other part of the system, with the exception of reports, allows you to search and find information. And this is a pretty powerful filter. I like it a lot because it allows me to find information historically. And we'll come back to that because it sort of falls into like a general query. But again, we're talking about what happens when you log into the main system and how you navigate managing work orders. So when we think about our day, right, and the things that we have to accomplish, we all have certain things that must get done. Part of that might be scheduled maintenance. Part of that might be those reactive work orders that are coming in. You know, something is broken, it needs to be fixed. My filter can be set to active, right, as a default. So now I've looked at this list and now I'm thinking, okay, this is everything that is still not completed in my 30 days. There's not a lot of work orders there, but there's enough. But I need to actually see all of the information that I want to see. And that means I probably am going to change my view a little bit. And what that means is just below the filters, you have your column views. So there's a default setting here for column views, and there's a default setting actually in any of the sub navigation points that you go to and all the other areas in there. So you can change your view for the information that you want to see. Okay. And this is really important because you want to streamline your visual to help you navigate the system. And I always say start simple and add. And how you do that is really easily done. You mouse over any one of your column headings and you'll see that there are lots of different ones, and you'll see that it sort of changes color and this little arrow appears. Okay, and each one has one. It doesn't matter which you go to. If I click on that, I can actually sort that column, which means I can group things together. But what I'm looking for is this static setting within the system. Okay, and there's lots of things that you can add or remove for your visual view on work orders. So if I mouse over, and I can start at the top, task number. Again, I don't know that I need it in my view. It's in the task. If I open it up, it's a unique identifier number for that task. If I have or manage more than one license, I may want to have my facility name in there. But if I just have access to one license, I probably don't want that part of my view. You're really going to think about how your request page is set up, right? And if everybody remembers what a request page looks like, you have the type of work order, you have the area, you have a room, you have what the problem is, and then you need to add a little bit more information. So I've got type, area, room, comments, right? Comments is what the problem is. Date created is important. I need to know when this came in. I need to know who submitted it. I really don't want to know who modified it. Maybe I want to know that it's a priority, or I can click it as a priority. But I'm just going to sort of go down and streamline my view down to type, area, room, comments, date it was created, and who submitted it. Basic information. Now I can add more information. If I have accountability built into my workflow, I might want to see who the task is assigned to, right? So then I can see if work orders have to be assigned or they have already been assigned. Maybe I want to have whether or not there's an attachment to the task. Put a little paper clip there, which means you can see if there's an attachment. If you're using the mobile app, it's really easy to take a picture and attach it to a work order. Sometimes things can come in via the request page as an attachment. Sometimes in preventative maintenance, there's something that might be a reference document that's attached. So again, that's pretty simple. Nothing complicated about this, right? Again, I started with a very, I guess, not busy, I'll use the word busy setup, and now I've streamlined it down to the information that I want. If I want to move things around, and I can move my tasks around. And it's sort of visually set up like a spreadsheet too. So again, I can adjust as I add or remove, I can add information in. So the system is set up to help you navigate things visually. You still have to do the documentation part of your work order, but now you're looking at this and going, okay, I went in and I changed my account settings, which took me to 35 work orders to now down to 9 work orders, and I filtered by active. And now I've actually taken my view and I've streamlined my view to be able to provide me the information that I want to see. So very simple and very easy. Okay. Now, logically, when you log in, you have your open work orders, and we talked about what those statuses are. If you're thinking about general work order management, you start as active and maybe you want to go to pending first, right? So pending is everything that's in progress, what's been started and not completed. I'm going to add another column here to make it a little bit easier for me, and I'm going to add my notes column. Okay, so now I'm just going to go in and do a little bit of a refresh. I want to check my notes on all of my tasks here. Is there any new information? Do I need to update any of my information? No. Or I can update and close if something's happened since this is open. I can go and I can update my notes and things like that. And then I can go to my new work orders and I can go and make sure that they're all assigned. And I can start the process of getting these completed in the system. And then I can go back to my active list, okay, which means everything that is open. Okay. So there's nothing complicated about that. It's very easy and it's very logical. It's very common sense. We're going to take our eyes to that icon that I mentioned earlier, the little icon up here just over to the left of the account icon. And we're going to click on that. Now you can play with your navigation, right? There's lots of different ways. Side or left navigation is what we're looking at right now. Some people like top navigation, which is this, right? And people like this because it gives you a bigger window, right, to work with. So again, that's that visual component that we talked about, not necessary, but you can minify your navigation. You can play with it a little bit. But what we're going to do is we're going to turn on the sidebar. The sidebar is extremely important for you to self-monitor managing work orders. Or if you are monitoring other people, it's really important to be able to self-monitor and keep on top of things. So we're going to turn that on. Okay, I'll show you what that looks like. This is the sidebar. It has a couple of components to it. The one thing you need to note is that it must be refreshed. Okay, so there's a little refresh button down at the very bottom, and now it's refreshed to my current date and time. Once you open this and you've sort of dealt with what we're going to go to here, you can close it. And it will open again when you log back in, which again will prompt you to refresh. So depending on how or who is accessing the system, this gives me a good idea, you know, if Dino was my direct manager, which he is, he would go and go, oh, Susan's not doing such a bad job. You know, I'm closing my work orders. I have some action items here. I've got my preventative maintenance up and running, and I'm keeping on top of things in a relatively easy way. So the reason the sidebar is helpful is we've sort of talked about new and pending, but there's older work orders, right? That 30-day window is a very large window for getting things done. But the reality is things can fall through the cracks. Things might stay open longer, right? So that internal checks and balances that you provide for yourself is extremely helpful. So again, you can go into your older work orders. Is there anything that needs to be closed? Do you need to update notes in it if it's a pending work order or delayed work order? Okay. Your delayed work orders sit here. We're going to talk about how delayed works in the system. but you can check on your delayed work orders, and I'll tell you a little bit about how to navigate that. And then I'll also talk a little bit about reopened. Okay. So we're going to go through the process of managing a work order from start to finish. And we're going to explain why it's important to follow these steps on managing a task, right? When you use a system, you are basically documenting things. So at the end result is either if you're doing a general query here, or you're running a report, or someone is running a report, the information that comes in has a certain flow to it that provides information out, right? And, for anybody that has any sort of audits or anything that you do, the information that comes in and the information that goes out in the form of a report is extremely important. And that's why over many, many years, we have developed the ability to be able to coach you through what the best workflow management process is. Okay. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to open up our task. There it is. So the information that has come in is pretty general. We know where it is, what room it is. We know possibly who submitted it, right? Because they put their name in. In some cases, they might have an email address in there if that's part of your workflow. Okay. So it basically tells us where it is, what the issue is. Remember, because your task types will determine that in your system. And from there, now you have to go and actually do the work. Now, obviously, the advantage to having the mobile app is that information, when it comes in, if you've got your notification alerts turned on, it will basically tell you where it is and what it is. So it allows you to pivot. It allows you to make a determination on how time sensitive things are. So again, the information is important that comes in if you are using the mobile app as a partner tool to the main system. So everything comes in as new. We've already talked about that, whether it's system generated or preventative or reactive work orders. So now we actually have to close it through or move it forward to eventually it being completed. And we already know that this is the best one. Closed is the best. It's done. I've done all the work. And now I can close it off and get on to the next 100 things I have to do. But the reality is you can't close every single task. There's certain things that may have to be done. You may have to be calling an outside contractor. Maybe you need approval to move forward. Maybe you've reassigned it to somebody because they are more specialized. It could be many different reasons. So not everything moves forward immediately to closed. That's where pending comes in. And our system pending is basically in progress, right? It's been started but not completed. Okay, that's basically it. There's nothing complicated about it. And then we have delayed. So should you delay a work order, the option is there to do it, but it has to be managed. And that's the thing you have to remember is Maintenance Care is a simple and easy system, but you have to be able to manage it. And the tools that we provide in these webinars and all of our online wiki guides provides you the instructional information. When you delay a work order, you're pushing it out of your active list to come back into your active list on a day that you want it to happen. So let's say you have a contractor coming in and maybe they're coming in on the 18th. You could delay the task to a day before. So if you think about this logically, a day before you're checking to see if they're coming, if you've ordered a part, is it coming? You're doing your own internal due diligence to make sure that it's going to happen. Your notes are always going to say what is happening. When is the work order coming in? Did I order part? Did I want to put a part number in there? Did I want a tracking number in there? Whatever information is going to be helpful to you. Delayed shows up over here because it's, again, that internal management process, right? Your delayed work order will stay there, and then it will trigger and become a work order based on the tape. But if you have 5 or 6 delayed work orders, they all reside there, even when they are here. So again, that's the way of checking, looking at your notes, updating information. Okay, so that's how delayed works within the Maintenance Care system. Okay, excluded is a rejected work order. So 2 primary reasons that a work order is rejected. It could be a duplicate. Your notes would say duplicate, or it's not something that your department does. Now you could take this and you could forward it to a person that may be handling it. There's a forward button there. You could forward it to someone and let them know that this came in and it's, they can handle it. It's really up to you. but an excluded work order is basically rejected. Your notes would say this is a duplicate task or we don't do this. Everything flows through to that note, and I'll focus on that in a second. And then we've got reopened. So reopened is a status change. That's absolute because it's here in our status task. But you have to think about this logically in the system. If you reopen something, the system doesn't flag it as a repetitive issue. So some customers use reopened to just flag it and they'll put another work order in or ask somebody in. But there's also another reason why reopened gets a status change that you may not have done. And there's a reason why it sits here in the quick filters. Again, that's an internal checks and balances that you have on keeping on top of things. If you remember, or if anybody's using the request page, one of the options in the request page is to put an email address in. And the option is, some of the fields are mandatory, and it may be that the email field in the request page is mandatory. It may not be. Irrelevant people do or can put in a email address, which means they'll get an acknowledgement and they should get a closed notification. If somebody replies to one of those auto notifications, the system will automatically reopen the task. And in that task here, so here it is, if you open it up, if you haven't opened it up or any one of your team members haven't opened it up, is an email trail back and forth with information. So you can respond back from the maintenance care system to any sort of question or comment that may came up. Okay, so you can do that within the system. It makes it easy and it makes it simple. Okay, so that's how reopen gets flagged. Can you reopen a task? Yes. Put in your notes why, obviously, but also too, it flags that auto notification response in the system. Okay, so we're going to go back to our task list. Okay, and we're going to walk through a couple of other things that you should note. Built into maintenance care is accountability, which means work orders can be assigned. That's dependent on your internal workflow. Usually we recommend if you have more than one team member, then accountability should be part of your workflow. Work orders can be assigned, either a manager can assign, or if your team is basically self-starting, they can assign the work orders to themselves. If they're already going to be in that area and it comes in, especially if they're using the mobile app, it makes it so very simple. But assigning is part of that workflow. So again, I can go in and I can assign, and it'll date and timestamp that it's assigned, and it will show up on our view. And it doesn't just show up here because we've added it, but remember in the mobile app too, this is extremely helpful, especially for larger teams, because now we can see where everybody is. I'm not going to waste my time going to that part of the building when I can see that George is already taken ownership of that. So again, managers can assign, they can come in auto assign. So again, that's something, if you have access, you can talk to somebody that might be able to set that up in your system. Remember, the online wiki guide provides that instructional information if you want to delve deeper into it, but that accountability is built into maintenance care. Again, we're talking about that follow through to reporting, right? The system is built for that. So information in, proper documentation, proper work order management gives you a really good, fluid, defined report, or even a general query right from here. Okay, so assigning is really important. Okay, and now we actually have to document the work. So now we're going to be following through with those status changes that we talked about, right? So again, here, is it closed? Is it pending? Am I delaying it? I'm going to move it to close because it's something that's really simple. And now we're going to get to another part of the work order management, duration. So maintenance care will track 2 times. One is automated and one is manual, right? Here in the system, this is how much time it took to do the work. Again, that follow through. They're repetitive too, right? So remember, things can be repetitive. How much time would we spend on the same thing last week or the previous week or the previous week? Duration can be put in. Again, it's not a mandatory. It should be something that you discuss as part of your workflow, but it gives good formative information back to, again, everything that goes out of the system provides that generalized report. Okay, and then we get to the most important part of any work order management note. And I will say to anybody that I train, if you go back 3 months from now, what information is going to be important for you to know? That's basically it. Did I change the light bulb? Did I clean up? Well, this one's kind of different because it's just a cleanup, so I could just put cleaned up, right? It's pretty simple. But if I have something that I'm delaying or it's a pending work order, or now it's going from pending to closed, what is the follow through for that information? Because that does flow through to a report. And again, we're talking about that trending and repetitive issues. Or again, you're doing your due diligence to make sure that the notes in there give you the information that you want to see. If you went back 3 months ago, what information is going to be important? Okay, so it's really simple and easy. Now, let's talk about a little bit of difference between a reactive work order, a demand work order, and a scheduled task. So a scheduled task is usually set up for defined processes built into it, right? Here's what you must do, and we want to acknowledge that you did that. So when it comes to preventative maintenance or scheduled maintenance, there's an extra step, and the extra step would be to acknowledge that it's done and a signature. Should you be putting your signature into every task? Yes. Again, follow through is important, but for your preventative and scheduled maintenance, acknowledging that the work is complete and the signature is really important. I always equate this back to paper. If you had any sort of paper tracking, there is always an initial and there's always a date, always. If you're closing something off, that's follow through in anything, whether or not you're using carbon copy papers or checklists or something, there's always a follow through with signature and an acknowledgement that you did it. Okay. So again, that follow through should be here. Okay. Now there's lots of other bells and whistles that are ingrained into work order management. There's lots of layers to maintenance care. We have simplified it to a couple of things, right? And we're going to just do a little bit of a recap so everybody, can refresh their memory again. Up in the little account setting buttons, logging out of maintenance care here properly is important, but we're going to go into settings. Again, we're going to go into mobile setting or more settings and display settings. Okay. Recommendation only, but this is what we would recommend set up as your display settings. Grid page at 50 or 25, number of days 30, especially if you're using the mobile app. Okay, because you want to set that as your primary filter, active last 30 days in the mobile app. Highlight priority, change your format, save. Okay. The other one we want to turn on is our sidebar, and we want to refresh it to the current date and time. That allows us to navigate those work orders that are a little bit different, not your standard new, pending, closed. Okay, so again, older work orders here, delayed work orders here. Even if it has triggered and shows up here, your delayed work orders will be there and you're reopened. Okay. When you've dealt with all of that, you can close it here. It'll open again when you log in. Okay. We also want to make sure that you understand how to visually change your column view so it provides you the information that you want to see. Okay. Start simple and add. I like the notes column because I honestly think that, again, if you're going to be looking at pending work orders first, and you can see them, you can also, I don't know if anybody knows this, but if you click on this column right here, right? So if we go back to reset, which is all of our work orders, if I click on this column right here, it will bring my oldest work order to the top. And if I'm looking at my active work orders, it now brings my oldest work order to the very top of my list. Okay. And if I change it to pending, it now brings my oldest work order to the top of my list and new. Again, simple and easy. The system is set up that way. It's been designed that way. Okay. Lots of layers to maintenance care. There's lots you can do. If you're interested, again, go to the online wiki. There's so much information in there too. So much information. There also will take you to our YouTube channel, which has lots of previous webinars on reporting and things like that, but all sorts of tips and tricks for managing tasks, preventative maintenance, equipment, all of that. Okay. All right. So, Dino, any questions from some of the people attending?
All right. Thank you, Susan. I don't have any. Can you look into the Q&A section to see if it's open? Because I can't see it. You're the host.
I can't see that there's anything here either.
Okay.
Yeah, no questions that I can
Oh, I've
see.
got one in
Oh,
the
there we go.
chat. How do we schedule repetitive tasks?
It's a very good point to make up. We're not really covering it today, but I will give you a few pointers to put you in the right direction. So, all scheduled tasks, anything that's repetitive, sits in the scheduler. Now, you have to have access to that part of the system. As I said at the beginning, we do not provide access to that. You need to go to whoever is a master user or one of your managers to get access. But in the online wiki guide, and we might as well go in and take a look since we have a little bit of time. The online wiki guide, again, getting started, mobile app information, FAQ, some really good answers to most of the common questions that we get, which is probably in here, in advanced task management. But we're going to go to the navigation, we're going to go to the scheduler tab, and we're going to go to the scheduled list. And it walks you through step by step on how to create a scheduled task along with a video. Okay. So
All
again,
right.
like I said, the online wiki guide has amazing resources built into it. Use it. It's functional. It's easy. It's got lots of great information. If you still need help, remember, customer support is available. Okay.
Thank you.
I
Thank
hope
you,
that
Susan.
answers
I
the
got,
question.
yes,
Move
I
on.
guess it does. Max is asking, how can I change the display size? It was larger and I must have done something and now it is smaller.
Okay. So probably the easiest one I would say on your computer keyboard, do a control minus or a control plus, and that will. So if you look at my screen, I'll do a plus, makes it bigger. And then I can do a control minus and it takes it smaller. That's the easiest way to do it.
Excellent. Thank you. Anonymous attendee is asking, how do we add storage capacity and what is the pricing like? So for that question, I'll answer you. Anonymous attendee, you reach out to us by email or calling, and we can provide you with the pricing for that, depending on what storage you capacity you have right now as a client. All right. Thank you.
Any
Any
other
other
questions?
questions? Yes. Go ahead. You've got the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. You should be able to write a question in there.
Perfect. Okay.
I've got, do we have another?
I don't
Yes,
think so. Oh,
Philip.
you do? Okay.
Are we going over creating reports in this web? Not this one, Philip. This is another one that we had recently, actually, where Susan did a webinar on it. And if you want to check it out, you can check it out, like Susan said, on our
YouTube
website
channel.
and our YouTube channel. All right,
Yeah,
thank
I
you.
think all the webinars are there, so definitely
Yeah.
go in. There's lots of resources there. It's really fantastic. So definitely go in and take a look. But I think our webinar's up now, Dino, from the last time.
Yes, it is.
Mhm.
Roblin is asking, how can I set my signature in time for the comment when I complete a task?
Okay, so it's
For the
automated
notes,
in the
yes.
system. Okay, so if you open it up, okay, just gonna bring up a different one here. Okay, it's automated. So here, see that little blue check mark here and the notes in here? So there's the signature. In the mobile app, when you are in the app and you're in the notes section, in the lower left corner of the notes section, you'll see a little me button with a green check mark. That's how you do it in the mobile app. Okay, so here you just click on the signature button here. See, it's the username and timestamp. And in the mobile app, when you're in the edit, in the notes, then it's in the lower left corner, you'll see green check mark me button. And that's the signature in the mobile app.
All right. Thank you, Severina. All right, so I've got Marlon.
Mhm.
Hi, I'm missing my left screen showing cabinet scheduler reports. How do I get that back? So
So you
she's
have to
probably
go,
talking about the
yeah.
board. Yeah.
So you probably need to go to, I guess, your direct manager to see who has access. In the maintenance care system, there are certain people within your facility license that have what's called a master user access, and they can go in and change your access to provide you more of the navigation points within maintenance care. We do not have the ability to do that.
Yep. All right, Marlon, thank you. Any other questions regarding simple work order management? All right. Well, our pleasure, Marlon. Um, no other questions. All right, let's wait a minute and then we'll see if if there's another one that's going to pop up. If not, we're going to close this one up. Let me see. Okay, doesn't seem to be. So, anyway, if ever you've got any more questions, you can still call us or chat with us or send us an email, and we will gladly help you with anything that you might have. Thank you very much for your time, and see you
Thank you, everybody.
for our next webinar in January in 2026. Thank you.
All
Take
right.
care. Bye
Take
bye.
care, everybody. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.